Today the garage gets futuristic. Stick around. What is going on, people? Welcome back to the Garage Man. Today I have got a great one for you. We're going to do an unboxing around the Revopoint MetroX 3D scanner. Man, I'm so excited about this. This has been something that's been churning in my brain for a couple of years now, and it was exacerbated by the fact that High Performance Academy put out a series on 3D scanning in the automotive world and 3D modeling in the automotive world. And I watched the 3D scanning one and I was like, man, this is something I want to learn how to do. So if you're interested in any of this stuff and you want to see how it can be applied to the automotive world, I suggest going down to the link in the description and checking out HP Academy's 3D scanner. Connor, the guy that teaches that stuff, man, he is sharp. Oh, he's super sharp. I've had to go back and watch a couple of the videos a few times, but that leads me to where we are today. I was thinking about the Camaro and how cool this project is coming along and how there's so much unique stuff on there. And I thought, man, wouldn't it be awesome to be able to design a custom center console? And that's where the idea started. I thought, man, it'd take all these measurements and then have to learn 3D modeling. Listen, I'm not going to learn 3D modeling. I'll just tell you that right now. There's other ways around that. And in the past, I'll do probably what I've done in the past. I'll get all the specs and designs, send it to somebody on Fiverr or something like that, and have them model it. But the big takeaway is, I want this console to fit perfectly between our Sparco seats and go up to the dash and meet the dash. So I reached out to Revopoint and I said, hey, this is what I got going on. This is what I'm working on. This is my idea. What do you guys think? And boy, they were on board and they said, yeah, give us more details. Send us some pictures of what you're trying to scan, stuff like that. And they suggested the MetroX, which is in here. Oh. Obviously, there will be a link down in the description to Revopoint. Go check it out. Oh, I didn't bring my knife. I'll have to grab it so we can open it. But this is the MetroX kit. And huge shout out to Revopoint for sending me this so we could try this out. On top of it, there's a couple things special about this unit. This unit is what they call metrology grade. You have to bear with me. I'm fairly new to this space. I don't know a whole lot about all of these fancy words. But essentially, whenever it's metrology grade, the accuracy of the scans are close enough that you can use it. Like if you were to CNC mill a part, you could scan it with this and take all of your measurements digitally, and it's going to be like within 0.15 millimeters or something. Super fine accuracy. Probably a little overkill for what we're doing here, but you never know whenever we might need to replicate a part, and this thing is going to replicate it perfectly. I mean, I've already got some part ideas of things that need to be replicated, but right now I'm more focused on this center console project. Let me grab a knife. Okay, now that we've got this part, let's just go ahead and take a look at our marker block kit. So whenever it comes to 3D scanners, there's a couple different methods of scanning. This one uses, obviously it's got cameras, but it shoots lights in a pattern. This one has multiple different patterns based on what you're trying to capture, the detail, the size, stuff like that. And the cameras pick up the way the light is distorted on the object. That's why clear or reflective objects don't scan as good. Black doesn't reflect light very well, so it doesn't scan as good, but this is supposed to be super good at capturing black objects. But we also have what we call markers. And there's a bunch of these little dots. These things are a specific size that is recognized by the scanner to help assist in shaping things out. Then we also have like these little balls, and I think they're magnetic. Yep, they are. So we can put these around, and you can see that they've got markers on them already, but they have a specific shape that allows it to capture the depth of the object that you're shaping or you're scanning in. And so what you end up doing is, say we're trying to scan something fairly flat, we may not use the balls, but we might put a couple markers. They don't have to be in any particular order. There is some guidelines on how close they should be together and things like that, but we want to make sure these go on a flat part of what we're scanning. Now, when we're done and in the software, we can go in and do cleanup and remove these things off of our final scan. We got some stand-ups here, and I think maybe there's a way of screwing some of these markers into the stand-ups, or some of these markers may have post on them. Don't quote me on that. But that's something that we'd use if we're using like the turntable. So these you can get online. They're fairly expensive for no more than they are. So try and reuse the sticker ones as much as possible. But if you do have to get some more, look up the specs for your scanner. Make sure that you're getting the right diameter. And all they're going to be is a silver or white dot inside a black circle. So that is the marker kit. And we'll circle back on this whenever we're doing practical scanning, actually putting this to work and show what it looks like to use it or not use markers. Now, here is, and you can see my package got a little damaged on the way here, but it doesn't matter because we've got a nice case. And in fact, they've changed it from the last time I've seen. They used to come in like the little black ones, I think. But here is the kit. So we do have a turntable. And this turntable is powered, and you can change the pace on it. You can also cant this if need be. But it's already got markers on top of it. So if you're doing small objects, that's what the turntable's for. We've got all the universal power adapters that came with the US one already hooked on. So if you're overseas, you're good to go there. We will look at some smaller objects. There are some small things that I'm going to want to scan for the interior. But we'll talk about that whenever we dive into it. What do we got here? What is this? Okay, this is some kind of cover. Here's our USB cable. Power brick. Oh, and well, looky here. We've got a little bust that we can use for testing the scanner out. We've got an adapter, USB A to C if need be. We've got a lanyard. Oh, that's so cute. Ouch, my beard got caught in there. Here's the scanner itself, but underneath the scanner, we've got a little tripod action. If you are scanning over here on this thing, you're going to want to set up your tripod to keep your scanner. There we go. Your scanner, and what we do is we can do a fixed position with the scanner. Oh. We do a fixed position with the scanner. Oh, here, that's what this is for. To hold the scanner here while this is rotating and capturing. And so whenever we're doing something like this that's small, there may be some angles that are hard to capture. And so we may do a scan all the way around that angle, then we may lower it down, then we may go as high as this thing will go. That should be as high. You know, we have to capture these in multiple different angles, and then we can stitch them together in Revopoint software. Then, last but not least, we've got the scanner itself. So, nice little handheld unit. It's got a couple buttons on here, play, pause, plus, minus. But the big thing about this style of scanner is we are going to be plugged in to the computer while we're scanning, and we will see what we're scanning on the computer. So in the case of like the center console, we'll put the laptop on top or in the driver's seat, and we're going to be scanning our interior at different angles to get a good scan. Now, as I said, this has got multiple light patterns. You know, based on what we're scanning will determine the different patterns that we use in the scanning process. keep in mind, whenever you're using a scanner like this, it's going to be dependent upon your computer. Okay, I see. This thing doesn't even necessarily clip in. It just sits in here. So they make different kinds of scanners. A lot of them you can hook up to a computer. Some of them you can actually hook directly up to an iPhone or an Android. And then some of them are fully handheld and you don't need a computer at all. Now, what's the difference, you might be asking? Well, I've kind of looked around, and one of the main differences is this style is generally going to be your more accurate, high-level kind of stuff. The smaller ones are the ones that hook up to your phone. They can get good scans, but the accuracy down to a fraction of a millimeter probably isn't going to be there. Know what you're trying to accomplish and then find one with the specs that you're looking for. You can do some pretty powerful stuff with just a cell phone. Nowadays they have LiDAR built in. This uses laser and probably LiDAR. As I said, I know what LiDAR is and I know kind of why it's used, but when it comes to this whole laser thing, it means something. Like the laser stands for something. I'm not sure what it is. And honestly, it's not going to matter for us. Look at that, man. That's cool. But since this does hook into a computer, be aware, the computer's performance is going to play into how quickly you can scan. This thing, I don't know if you play video games on computer, works much in the same process of we have frames per second. The more frames per second that we're registering on the computer, the faster we're scanning in data. So think of it this way. This I do know is we're collecting a point cloud essentially. We're shooting our lights, our lasers across our item, and those are being deformed by the shape of our item, and the cameras are picking up that deformation of those beams. That is then generating a point cloud in our computer that becomes a 3D representation of what we're scanning. Then at the end of it, we end up making it a solid or putting skins on it. That's all really inside baseball, 3D modeling kind of stuff like that, that we'll talk more about whenever we get into the software. But I want you to be aware, as I said, and we'll try this on some of the lower end computers, but most likely whenever it comes to doing the actual scans for the Camaro, we're going to break out my powerful laptop that's got a high performance NVIDIA video card in it, because this actually supports acceleration through NVIDIA GPUs and only NVIDIA GPUs. So if you've got something with an NVIDIA GPU, if it falls within the specs, you will get higher frames per second by rendering out your scan through that. Now, that's not to say that it won't work without one. It will. Just be aware there are PC specs. We will test it, see how it handles, and do a comparison of what the frames per second are on GPU assisted versus non-GPU assisted, or maybe non-GPU assisted on a older PC to kind of get a baseline. So that's about it for right now. I just kind of wanted to get a look at the package, see what we were working with, what all was going on. I'm super excited and just can't thank Revopoint enough. They've been so helpful with answering questions and giving me assistance, and even so, it's just, they're like, hey, if you run into any problems whatsoever, just don't hesitate to reach out. So the communication with them has been second to none. So I'm already impressed with their customer support on that end. Let me know if there's specific things that you would like to see me try off of a car to scan in. You know, this is becoming something that anybody can get into. The entry barrier has gotten cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. You know, what used to cost probably $5,000 a couple years ago is now down to $1,000. You can get scanners for a couple $100. Now, granted, as you spend more money, they get more resolution. They get better final products, final scans, and that's something to keep aware of. You can, you know, and then on top of it, think about what the output of the file is going to be. We're going to be using this a lot in what they call FDM manufacturing, and that is just 3D printing. That's the type with the filament and the nozzle, and you know, I've been doing some of that stuff for years. This is going to be the most advanced. And in fact, I'm trying to find a new 3D printer for a lot of our projects. The one that I'm working on is a few years old now, and I'm looking for something with a bigger build out base, because the idea is that we will 3D print the center console in pieces and then put it together and upholster it and install it in the car. Oh, hold on, that reminds me. Something else I'm super excited about having this scanner for is we're doing an 8 HP swap in this, which means we're using a Dodge Challenger, I believe, transmission shifter, because it's CAN bus. We've got this nice shifter with a boot. We're going to be able to scan in our boot pattern and where our clips are, and design a mounting plate that this should clip in and make this basically look like a stock application. So there is a lot of things that we don't think about that we maybe look back on and say, man, I'd like to have fabricated that a little bit differently, a little bit better. You know, I built out a dash panel, or I need to mount a graphical interface, you know, an HMI, a screen for my standalone system like that. This would allow you to go in, scan in the area where your dash gauges are, and then take the dimensions of your screen that you're putting in there, plop in there, and then print out a new panel that you could replace your dash with, things like that. And we're going to dive into some of that. So make sure you stick around and subscribe if you haven't already. So I will create a whole new playlist for this that is around scanning with the Revopoint and doing projects around 3D scanning, 3D printing and stuff like that. So if you're interested in that, check it out. Now, granted, there's a lot of guys out there on YouTube already that understand this stuff a lot better than me. If you're interested in finding out more, don't hesitate to go out and find some of that information. Reach out to Revopoint themselves if you have questions or you have specific things that you're wanting to do. They can tell you exactly what you need and get you set up. My big goal is to show how this is going to work in the garage, working on car stuff specifically, looking for problems that we have in the past had a hard time finding solutions for, how we can use 3D scanning and 3D printing to solve those problems. And so I'm super excited, and man, I feel very lucky to be working with a great company like Revopoint that has some great products out there. So check out the link down below, show those guys some love, go over, find their YouTube and social medias, follow them, because there's always some cool stuff on there. And there's some guys in the automotive world that are using this. You'll see models of door cards and motors and all kinds of stuff pop up on their Instagram. I love seeing how people use these things to bring in and create 3D models of stuff that they're working on. As I said, if you're interested in learning more about 3D scanning or 3D modeling in the automotive world, check out HP Academy. There's a link down there also. We have discounts as Goat Rope Garage, so make sure you're using the link. It'll save you a little money on the courses. Specifically, the 3D scanning course I found very informational. The 3D modeling one was a little bit over my head, but I just have no background in 3D modeling. It's just something I'm going to have to get into. But for now, I'm going to wrap this up so we can get things kind of ready and situated so we can start scanning. We'll go through setting up the software on this, connecting to the software, doing initial scans and all that stuff. So keep your eyes peeled for that video. I'm going to get back to it. You guys know the drill. Thanks for stopping by the garage. Remember, ABT, always be tuning.